I've had my eye on this Singer 4452 heavy-duty sewing machine for quite some time now. And once it came out in this rosewater pink, it was over. I knew I had to have it. In today's video, I'm going to do an overview of what I've learned about it so far. I ordered my sewing machine directly from Singer's website after getting a 10% discount email from them, and I ordered the bundle that also included the carrying case. About 5 days later, it showed up on my doorstep and I couldn't wait to open it. So let's take a look at what all you get with the machine. Then after I talk about all the accessories that come with this, I want to talk about the various settings, the features, I want to show you how to wind a bobbin, and I want to show you how to thread your machine. When I received the machine, it already had a needle installed on it, but I also received 2 other packages of needles. So this smaller package, those are just general purpose needles. They are size 90-14. This package here, those are 116s, so they're a little bit heavier duty than this package. The machine also had a general purpose foot installed on it, but there are some other feet that you get with it. So this is a walking foot. Some people call that an even feed foot. We have a buttonhole foot. You also receive a foot that you actually use to sew the button on. You receive a Teflon foot. Now the purpose of this is if you're using material that tends to stick to the metal foot, maybe vinyl or faux leather, this Teflon foot is nice because it tends to glide more smoothly over those. You also receive a zipper foot. There's also a bobbin that came in the machine, but I received 3 more of those bobbins. I just have one here, but I got 3 more of those. These bobbins are called Class 15 bobbins. They're readily available and they're inexpensive. The next tool that you see, this is what I call a hump jumper. So if you're sewing along some fabric and then there's a high seam or a thick seam, you can put this under your presser foot. It lifts that presser foot up and it makes getting over that high seam just a little bit easier. Actually, quite a bit easier. It also has a hole in it, so you can use that to install needles, or when you're taking needles out, you can still use that so they don't fall down into your machine. You receive a large spool cap, and if you're using smaller spools of thread, you receive this smaller one as well. Now this little brush helps you clean your machine, especially down in the bobbin area, but it also doubles as a seam ripper. Now this next tool is a multi-use tool. It's like a screwdriver, and you can use it to get into areas that you need to clean. And then finally over here on the far right, this is a seam guide. So if you are sewing seams that are larger than what you have marked on your machine, you can use that to help you sew straight. Now let's move on to the foot pedal. So this machine runs with a foot pedal. There's no start or stop button. It's simply a foot pedal machine, and you use it like you use the gas pedal in your car. So this goes on the ground. You have this cable coming out of it. At the end of that cable, you have the plug that plugs into the right side of the machine. We'll look at that in a minute. Now there is a second cable coming out of that, and that's what plugs into your electrical outlet. You receive a dust cover. Now when I bought this machine, I actually bought the hard case that you can get with it, and I'll typically store it in that. But if I'm going to leave this out for several days in a row, I want to cover it to keep my machine clean and to especially keep dust out of the inside of it. Then lastly, you receive paperwork. So instructions on how to register your machine. This tells you where to download the manual. You have some safety instructions, and then this tells you how to install the foot pedal. Lastly, and this is the most helpful one, this is like a quick startup guide or a reference sheet. The pictures in this are very good, and it includes pictures and instructions on things like how to wind your bobbin and how to thread your machine. Now lastly, one of the accessories that I received, and I forgot that I had already put it on up here, is this spool pin. So you have one spool pin right here, but some people like to sew with their thread vertical, and so you have this secondary thread pin right here. It also has a piece of felt that you can put on just to keep that thread from hopping up and down and making a lot of noise. Now let's talk about the settings on the machine and some of its features. And we're going to start here at the top. So this right knob, this is actually your stitch width. And when I received it, it was set on 6. But you can turn that all the way to 0. The knob in the middle determines your needle position. Right now, the needle is in the center. But if I want the needle slightly to the right or slightly to the left, I can adjust that with this knob. Now the needle's to the right. And now the needle's all the way to the left. But I want to go ahead and put that back to the middle. This left knob determines your tension. You can set your tension as low as 0, or you can set it as high as 9. But most of the time, you're going to have this somewhere between 3 and 5. Moving over left and back a little bit, you can turn this, and what that does is it increases or decreases the pressure of your presser foot. Now, I don't really see myself using that a lot, but it's nice to have it available if I need it. Now, these two knobs actually work together, and this determines your stitch type, and here you can determine your stitch length. When I received this, it was set on just a general straight stitch, and it was set to about a 2 1/4 to 2 1/2 stitch length. But notice down here, you have a lot of different types of stitches. Notice that in the position it's in now, you have a gray stitch, a blue stitch, and a red stitch. Then again, you have a gray stitch, a blue stitch, and a red stitch. And that same pattern follows all the way around. Right now, this knob is set to the grays. So whatever is right under this dot, that's what this is set to. So right now, it's in gray, and it's on straight stitch. With it being on the straight stitch, I can change the length. I can actually go all the way to 0. Now, why would you want it to be at 0? Maybe you're doing some freehanding quilting, and your hands are going to guide that around, and so you don't want an actual stitch length. Maybe you want to tack something down in one place several times. Those are two examples that I think of when you might want to use a stitch length of 0. For me, most of what I do, I'm going to have this set at about a 2 1/2. If I'm doing a top stitch, I'm going to bump it up to about a 3, but you have a lot of options here. Now let's say that I want this blue stitch that you see right here. There's a couple things I need to do for that. First of all, I need to turn this knob so that I'm in the blue. It says S1 and it's blue. And then I need to turn this wheel until I'm at that position. Since this is the position that we're on this knob, you can tell that because here's the dot, and we're on the blue S1, this blue stitch is what I would get. If I turn this top knob to S2, and you can see it's red, then I would get this red stitch. So you have to look at what color am I on up here, and what position do I want to be at to get that stitch. For me again, I'm going to mainly be doing straight stitches at about a 2 1/2 length. Now notice here's where you have a buttonholer, and then here's the buttonholer up here as well. I need to play with that, but I think you have to have both of those lined up to that buttonhole picture. Now that we've gone over the various settings, let's talk about some of the features. If you want to do a back stitch, you just push this down. When you're done doing your back stitch, release it. You have a thread spool holder here. And then if you want to sew with your thread in the vertical position, you have this thread pin as well. Another feature on this machine is you have a storage compartment right here. Also, you can slide this entire thing off if you're working with something narrow like a sleeve or a pant leg. Now while I have that off, let me show you something from the back side. On the back side, you have a lever to lift or lower your presser foot. Let's go ahead and lift that up so I can show you what I wanted to show you. Right down here, you have the ability to disengage your feed dogs. So the feed dogs are right down in here. And what they do is they lift up, they move your fabric, they go back down. They lift up, they move your fabric, they go back down. If you don't want those feed dogs to work, if you want to disengage those, you move this lever to the left. If you want them engaged, move it right back to the right. And then I'll show you how this works in just a little bit, but there is a lever here, and later I'm going to pull it up so that the machine releases the presser foot. I'll show you that in case you want to know how to change your foot. Now turning it to this side, you have a little thread cutter right here. So as you pull your fabric out and you're stretching your thread, you can just pull it up and cut it here if you want to. I just prefer to use scissors or snips, but that's a nice little feature to have. Then looking at the other end, you have your hand wheel here. I'll probably talk about that later. You have your on-off button here, and then this place right here is where you plug in your presser foot with your power attached to it. Lastly, you have this adjustment available to you. When you're doing a buttonhole, you can have the little zigzag stitches closer together like you see here, or farther apart like you see here. So now let's go ahead and plug this in so that we can wind a bobbin, and I'll show you how to thread the machine. Now I don't know if you can see it real well in the camera, but part of these are rounded and then part of it is just straight. And so you just have to match that up with your plug. And then now that I have it plugged in, I can turn it on by pressing this side of the rocker switch. Now let's slide the extension area back onto the machine, and it clicks right into place. Now I'll remove this bobbin so that we can wind thread onto it. So we'll just take it out and then replace the cover. To wind the bobbin, first I'm going to add the color of the thread that I want to use onto the thread pin, and then I'll add the larger spool cap to hold the thread in place. I'll grab the end of the thread, and then I'm going to put it behind this little metal piece back here. Then we're going to take the thread to the right and then in front of this silver piece up here. And you need to be sure to get the thread between the top part and the bottom part to get the tension right. But we're going to wrap it around to the left, then behind it, then straight over to the right. And I'm going to tug on the thread a bit to make sure it's really between the two layers of the metal piece. Now we'll take a bobbin, and the bobbins have a little hole in the top and the bottom of it. So there's really not a top or a bottom. It doesn't matter which way it is. But you want to put that thread from the middle of the bobbin up through the hole. And once you get it through, take the slack out of the thread. Now we're going to slide this metal shaft to the left and add the bobbin onto it. Now we'll slide that shaft back over to the right until it clicks into place. So I'm going to hold the extra thread tightly above the bobbin and use the foot pedal to start winding the bobbin with thread. Now that piece that I'm holding onto is getting shorter and shorter because it's winding up. So once you have quite a bit of thread on the bobbin, go ahead and stop winding it and cut that tail of thread off. Then I'm going to push down on the foot pedal again until the bobbin's full. And once the bobbin is completely wound, it's going to stop turning on its own. Now it's time to move that shaft to the left again, cut the thread, and then remove the bobbin. Notice that it's shaped like the letter P with that thread hanging down. That's exactly how we'll put it into the bobbin area in a bit. So to thread the machine, we're going to go back behind that little metal piece again and click it into place from the behind. And there's a number 1 by that metal piece. Next, there's a little number 2 over here, and it shows to put the thread behind the number 2 metal piece. Then the third step is to go right down through this gap. The fourth step is to make this turn to the left at the bottom down here. And then we go up the left side. Now it's important that this metal piece up here is at the top. That's the take-up lever. So we take the thread up and over that take-up lever and then back down to the left of it. Now there's a larger metal bar here that's hard to see in the camera, but the thread needs to go behind it from the right side. And then there's a small bar a little lower, and the thread needs to go behind it also from the right side. Now it's time to thread the needle. You can do it the old-fashioned way and do it by hand, or you can use a threader on the machine. This is the first machine that I've really learned how to use the auto threader. So you pull the auto threader down. You wrap your thread around the left side of the auto threader from the bottom. Wrap it around the top of it and pull the thread to the right. Then there's a little hook that came through the eye of the needle, and you're going to put that thread under that little hook, pull it to the right. There's another metal piece to the right that you need to make sure you have it under, and then pull the thread up a little bit. Also, this does take a little practice, but if you let go of the thread and the auto threader at the same time, the thread goes through the eye of the needle and makes a little loop. Then you just have to pull the thread the rest of the way through the needle, and now we're ready to add the bobbin. Remember, you put it into the shape of a P and drop it down into the bobbin area. There's a little groove right here that you want to pull your bobbin thread through. Then you pull the thread to the left and pull it backwards into another groove type area. Then just pull that bobbin thread straight back. Now it's time to grab the upper thread that you put through the eye of the needle earlier. Hold on to that thread and turn the top side of the hand wheel toward you. The upper thread goes around that lower thread, and then you can just pull straight up, and that's going to lift up your bobbin thread. Then I'm just going to straighten out both threads and place them through the slit in the front of the presser foot, and then just tuck them under it. Now before I finish this video, I want to show you how you change your foot out. So to do that, you pull up on the little lever behind the presser foot. That releases the foot and it just falls to the base of the machine. To add a foot back, you just put it under the presser foot and line it up under the bar that comes down. Now this does take a little practice, and you might have to move your foot a few times before you get it right. But eventually you will drop the presser foot bar down and it'll click into place and attach itself to the presser foot. Now let's put the bobbin cover back into place. Before you start sewing on anything important, grab a scrap piece of fabric, fold it in two, and make sure that everything's good. Here's the first project that I did on this machine, and I did it on a YouTube live stream. The machine did well, and I enjoyed using it for this project. Now this is a very basic machine, but it feels very solid to me, and I really like that it's mechanical versus electronic. So thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until my next video, bye-bye.